Welcome everyone to today's session on cake shelf life extension, sponsored by ASR Group.
I believe that your cake system should be able to tell you that if you use too much glycerin, it's gonna give you an off flavor. Not only that, your texture is going to be affected, your specific gravity is going to be affected. So I agree, glycerin is a great sugar alcohol to use, and I see it in a lot of formulations across the board. I would actually start with just 2% and work from there. Okay, if you go up to 5%, it will definitely affect the specific gravity of your system. Oh, absolutely. Iota carrageenan is an effective humectant. And I've seen it used in a lot of frosting applications and filling applications, mainly because it is such an efficient grabber of water. You know what I mean? It grabs water so well. And when it grabs water, it doesn't release it, when it stales or when it retrogrades. Or it doesn't even retrogrades at all, if I am clear about that. But definitely iota carrageenan would be good to be used as a humectant. All right. I believe lecithin as an emulsifier, firstly, is not really effective in frostings. Okay. I believe a better emulsifier would be a mono and diglyceride or a cyclodextrin. Okay. Mainly because of HLB, and HLB of lecithin is very water loving. Okay, you need a HLB that's closer to oil. Look up HLB in emulsifiers. So anyway, I do not think, and because of that, I do not think there is a difference between de-oiled or crude, even though crude is cheaper. Okay, would hydrolyzed sunflower lecithin work best? Like, again, I'm not so sure about that because not too many people use lecithin in cake products. And if you're cleaning up the label, then there are other ways to do it other than lecithin. If you want a shelf life of 3 to 6 months, lecithin is not going to stop the recrystallization of the fat and sugar. And that's just based on my experience. Something like mono and diglycerides and cyclodextrins would work the best. Okay. Of course, you can feel free to test it out, and I think you will see that lecithin is pretty much an ineffective emulsifier in this situation. Okay. And what you're talking about, de-oiled sunflower lecithin, is going to be really expensive as compared to many of the other alternatives out there. Absolutely. Okay, so I am passionate about this topic because I'm such a geek. All right. So cooling is an important step. Don't overcool or you'll dry your cakes. Okay. And also don't go from the oven to the freezer. Wrong way of cooling cakes. If you have extra money, look into vacuum cooling of cakes. Vacuum cooling of cakes actually cut your baking time and preserve the moisture if you really perfect that system. Okay. If you can't afford a vacuum cooler, look into conveyor with forced airflow. Okay, that would be next. And I've seen a lot of bakers out there just putting cakes on racks in front of big fans. And that's the worst way to cool, because you cannot control the airflow and because you're just recirculating the air and mold spores. Okay, not the best way to cool. Best way to cool would be vacuum cooling. If you can afford that, just let the cakes cool on wire racks, no fan in front of it. And basically just have it cool to less than 100 degrees Fahrenheit and ice it. Or if you're not icing it, send it through the IQF, okay? Individually quick frozen tunnel. That's always the best way to freeze cakes, all right? And many of you will still be freezing cakes the old-fashioned home-baked method way of just putting it in the freezer, right? Not a good idea. Not a good idea at all, because when you freeze cakes by putting them in the freezer, you only encourage the growth of large crystals. And the growth of large crystals not only increases lipid oxidation, it also increases crystallized growth of fats and sugars. And what happens there? If you don't have an emulsifier in that system, you are going to get a cake that weeps and seeps when it's thawed out. Okay, so no on freezing cakes in the freezer. Yes on freezing cakes in IQF tunnel freezers, always. The reason why I don't like to use acids in cakes is because it messes with the neutralizing values, and that just it messes with the chemical leavening in there. And if you're a high-speed plant and you're using SAPP or SALP, it could react faster. It could waste your sodium bicarbonate, and you might not get the volume. Okay. So I would suggest talking to someone at Young Bunzlauer or ICL Solutions. Both of them would have experts on letting you know which leavening acids would work with the different pH that you target. Okay. So that's my only concern. And I have to admit, I don't know too much there, but my suggestion is just not to use too much acids. Okay. Okay, two things here. Yes, okay, but why? Yes, but why? Okay, the reason why I say, but why? Because I want you to look at my screen, okay? All right, so I wanted to share with you the water sorption curve again to answer that question. So the question is, can we use potassium sorbate to increase the shelf life of cookies? Cookies are in the range of 0.4 to 0.6 water activity. What grows in there? Not mold, not yeast, and not bacteria. So why use potassium sorbate when none of these grow in there? Okay. So some of you might ask me, well, I don't know the water activity of my cookie. I say, go make friends with your university, your local university who has a food science department or a biological sciences department would have a water activity meter. So go figure out the water activity of your cookie product before you put in potassium sorbate. Okay. Now, if so happens that your cookie is higher than 0.6, okay, try to use the different methods that I asked you, that I shared with you just now, be it humectants, hydrocolloids, okay? those things will be able to bring your water activity down. Once you have enough sugar, hydrocolloids in your system, your water activity could be below 0.6, and then you don't need potassium sorbate. All right. What I want to teach all of you bakers out there is let's do the common sense, physical methods like water activity, manipulate it really well, and sanitizing your areas before you put in antimicrobials. Okay. And I would always like to share this philosophy because it's just using plain science to manipulate the system before using preservatives. All right. Depends on your sorbic acid source and if it's encapsulated. I would use encapsulated sorbic acid for cakes if you think sorbic acid is cheaper. Okay, you don't want the acid to mess around with your leavening system. That's why I say it, encapsulated. But you can try it different, as in different ingredient companies have different strengths. So I can't really tell you which is better, potassium sorbate or sorbic acid. You just have to try both. And you have to understand the cost with both and which one extends your shelf life. So you need to just try your cake A and cake B and then leave it over shelf life to see the difference. Okay. That's correct. Sometimes bacterial enzymes don't turn off, and that will be a big problem. Okay. But then you have to be very specific with your enzyme provider, or if you're at the level of creating these enzymes for baked goods, right? If you're the formulator, you're the creator, you need to understand the kill step, and you need to understand where your kill step is for your bacterial enzymes. And you need to understand with your cakes, what is your internal temp? Okay. I hope everybody gets above 180 degrees Fahrenheit, which I think a lot of enzymes are deactivated by them. But again, I don't have data on that. I don't know what most bakeries, like cheesecake factories, deal with the internal temp, or how they deal with the internal temp. So it can't be said for across board that everything's going to reach above 160, 180 degrees Fahrenheit. And just to be safe, I would go with the fungal. And because fungal enzymes have been shown consistently over the years to perform really well. Okay, so just play it safe, because I am not a biochemist and I can't tell you the workings of the bacterial enzyme at that molecular level. That's why I'm recommending the fungal, because everybody is using fungal enzymes to use in both bread and cakes. Okay. I believe, good question though. I mean, the follow-up question is, which is more effective? I think the bacterial is more effective. I also think that it's also harder to manipulate and use at the bakery level. That's why I am being safe and I'm recommending the fungal, right? I believe potassium sorbate is used and proven very effective. Sodium propionate is also used sometimes, but it hasn't been used as commonly as potassium sorbate. So I say do a test and determine your shelf life to see which one gives you better results. That's what I would recommend. And the reason why I can't give you a straight answer for that is because I have not used sodium perpropionate for cakes. The entire presentation of tips, please go through that. Do the natural water activity and all that stuff, sanitation and all that stuff before you put in a preservative, okay? And look at our YouTube videos on bread preservation, and you will know that cultured wheat is one of the things that you can use to preserve your bread against mold, okay? All right, so if there are any more questions, please type it. Otherwise, we have spent an hour on cake preservation. I didn't know there was going to be so many questions. Thank you for joining us today. If you have any more questions, please go to our Facebook page, and it's called Baking Industry Professionals. And it's here on this chat link. And our community there would help you. And we have cake experts, we have donut experts, we have tortilla experts on there. If I can't get to your questions to answer them on time, the community will. All right. Thank you everyone for coming, and I appreciate your questions. We'll see you again soon. Bye.